A handprint appeared on the inside of my windshield. I noticed it only because the dashboard light flickered, just enough to brighten the glass for a split second. The print was pale, foggy, pressed flat against the inside of the windshield directly in front of me. 5 fingers. A palm. Too large to be a child's, too narrow to be mine. I jerked my hands off the steering wheel and swerved slightly before correcting. The road was empty. No oncoming headlights, no taillights ahead. Just the dull gray ribbon of asphalt sliding under my beams. My heart hammered so hard it made my vision pulse. I told myself it was condensation, a trick of temperature and light. I had been driving for hours, and the night air was cold enough to mist the glass if I breathed too close. I wiped at it with my sleeve. The smear vanished instantly, leaving the windshield clear and dry. No residue, no moisture, just clean glass reflecting my own wide eyes back at me. I laughed, sharp and breathless. "Get it together," I said aloud. My voice sounded wrong in the car, thin and distant, like it didn't quite belong to me anymore. The road stretched on through low hills and sparse trees, the kind of place where the dark felt heavier because nothing interrupted it. No houses, no signs, just the occasional reflector blinking past at the shoulder like a slow, tired eye. The hum of the tires was steady, hypnotic, and beneath it the engine murmured faithfully, unaware of my panic. I checked the clock. It hadn't changed much since the last time I'd looked. Time felt thick, as if the minutes were sticking to each other. I forced my breathing to slow. I turned the radio on for company. Static bloomed, then settled into a low hiss between stations. I let it stay. Silence felt worse. 5 minutes passed, maybe 10. When the handprint came back, it wasn't alone. It appeared near the passenger side this time, slightly lower, as if someone had pressed their hand there while leaning forward. The glass clouded in the shape of it, blooming outward from the center of the palm. Then, beside it, another print emerged, overlapping the first at an unnatural angle. I stared at them, frozen. My breath caught, and with it came the sudden, horrible awareness that the prints weren't forming from fog. The rest of the windshield remained perfectly clear. Only where the hands touched did the glass frost. My chest tightened. I lifted one shaking finger and pressed it to the glass beside the prints. Nothing happened. No fog. No mark. "This isn't happening," I whispered. I wiped again, harder this time, scrubbing at the glass until my sleeve squeaked. The prints faded under the pressure, dissolving like breath on a mirror. My arm ached from how hard I'd been rubbing. I sat back, heart racing, and laughed again. Louder. Too loud. I was tired. That was all. Overtired, alone, my brain inventing patterns where there were none. People saw things on long drives. I'd read about it. Highway hypnosis, microsleeps, stress. I flexed my hands on the wheel to prove they were real. I rolled the window down a crack. Cold air flooded in, sharp and grounding, carrying the smell of dry earth and something metallic. I welcomed it. The road curved gently, the headlights sweeping over scrub and rocks. Somewhere far off, an animal cried. A short, broken sound that made my shoulders jump. It was gone as quickly as it came, swallowed by distance. When I glanced back at the windshield, there were more. 3 handprints now spread wider across the glass. One near the top, fingers splayed downward. Another low, almost at the dashboard, as if someone had pressed from below. The third was centered directly in front of my face. I screamed. The sound filled the car and bounced back at me, raw and animal. The steering wheel trembled under my grip as the car drifted before I forced it straight again. My pulse roared in my ears so loudly I could barely hear the engine. The prints were detailed now. I could see faint whorls in the palms, shallow creases where fingers bent. The edges weren't soft anymore. They were defined, like skin against glass. I wiped them away again, sobbing as I did it, my mind spiraling. I checked the seats, the back, the footwells. Empty. The doors were locked. The windows were up. There was no one else in the car. I told myself over and over that I must have touched the glass earlier without realizing it. that oils from my hands were reacting to temperature, that there was a scientific explanation I just couldn't grasp in my panic. But deep down, something colder and quieter asked a different question. If these are mine, it whispered, why don't they match? I held my hand up to the windshield, aligning it with where one print had been. The size was wrong. The fingers in the print were longer, the palm narrower, the thumb angled slightly inward, as if the hand had been twisted. The radio hissed louder. Underneath the static, I thought I heard a rhythm, a faint, uneven tapping, like fingers drumming softly on glass. I turned the radio off. The tapping didn't stop. Came from inside the car. My eyes flicked to the windshield just as another print appeared, blooming directly over where my hand hovered. It pressed outward, from the inside, as if something invisible were pushing through the glass toward me. The fingers flexed once, slowly. I yanked my hand back and slammed my foot on the gas. The engine surged, the speedometer climbing. The road blurred at the edges, reflectors flashing past faster now. But the darkness ahead seemed unchanged, endless. The handprints multiplied as I drove. They appeared in clusters, overlapping, sliding slightly as if whatever made them was shifting its weight. Some were high, near the roof. Others crowded low, near the dashboard, as though something crouched just out of sight. The windshield became a constellation of pale impressions, a map of silent contact. My breathing came in shallow, painful bursts. I felt detached from my body, like I was watching myself from somewhere just behind my eyes. A calm, awful thought took shape. This is what losing your mind feels like. I squeezed my eyes shut for a second, just a second, then opened them again. The road was still there. The car was still moving. The prints were still multiplying. One appeared on the side window to my left, then another, then a third, smearing slightly as if dragged. I smelled my own fear, sharp and sour in the confined space. The cold crept deeper into the car, frosting the corners of the glass, narrowing my view. Stop, I begged, not sure who I was talking to. Please, I see you. Just stop. The tapping grew firmer, deliberate. It moved across the windshield, a slow procession from one side to the other. The glass bowed inward slightly with each press, though it never cracked. I realized then that the handprints were oriented toward me, palms flat, fingers spread, as if whatever made them wasn't trying to get in. It was trying to get seen. The car shuddered as I eased off the gas, my courage failing. I didn't know where I was anymore. The road signs had stopped appearing. The darkness felt closer, crowding the edges of the windshield until the world ahead narrowed to a tunnel of light and hands. One final print appeared dead center, larger than the rest, placed carefully over my line of sight. Slowly, deliberately, the fingers curled, as though gripping the glass from my side. I slammed the brakes. The car skidded to a stop in the middle of the road. The engine idled, ticking softly. The tapping ceased. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, as my breath fogged the air in front of me, a new handprint appeared. Not on the windshield, not on the windows, but on the inside of the driver's door, right beside my shoulder. I didn't turn to look, couldn't, because I felt the pressure first, settling gently against my back, as if someone had finally found the seat they'd been reaching for all along. The road ahead split into 3 identical paths, none of which were on the map. I noticed it too late to stop comfortably. My headlights crested a shallow rise, and the single 2-lane highway I'd been following for hours simply separated. The asphalt widened, then forked cleanly into 3 parallel roads, each curving forward into the dark at the same shallow angle, each bordered by the same thin gravel shoulder and the same line of trees. No signs, no cones, no construction lights, just 3 identical continuations where there should have been one. I eased off the gas and coasted, my tires whispering against the pavement. The forest pressed in close on both sides. Tall pines packed so tightly their trunks blurred into a dark wall. The sky above was moonless, the stars dimmed by a low, creeping haze that caught my headlights and bent the light back toward me. My GPS chirped softly, then went silent. The screen froze, the blue route line ending abruptly a few yards behind my car. I zoomed out. The map showed nothing ahead but blank gray space, as if the road itself had been erased. "That's not right," I said, my voice sounding flat and small. I stopped at the split. The engine idled, a steady, reassuring vibration I clung to. For a moment, everything was still. No wind, no insects. Even the forest seemed to be holding its breath. I leaned forward, squinting through the windshield. At first glance, the three paths were identical, same width, same faded centerline, same gentle slope downward. But the longer I looked, the more the differences crept in, subtle and unsettling. The left path was darker, not unlit. My headlights reached it just fine. But the darkness beyond seemed thicker, heavier, as if it swallowed light instead of reflecting it. The trees along that road leaned inward slightly, their branches knitting together overhead. I thought I heard something there, a faint shuffling sound, like leaves being brushed aside by something moving slowly and deliberately just out of sight. The middle path looked wrong in a quieter way. The pavement was smoother, almost too smooth, the painted lines crisp and bright as if freshly laid. The air above it shimmered faintly, bending the light in a way that made the distance hard to judge. It reminded me of heat haze on a summer highway, except the night was cold enough that my breath fogged the inside of the windshield. The right path was the easiest to look at. The trees stood back a little farther, giving it a wider feel. The darkness there was ordinary, familiar. If I focused on it, I could almost convince myself it was the correct continuation, the one my map had somehow failed to register. Almost. I checked the time. It had been late when I'd left. Later now than I liked, but it hadn't jumped or stalled. I checked the fuel gauge. Just under half a tank. Enough to turn around, I thought. Enough to go back to the last town, the last lit place with human voices and bad coffee. I put the car in reverse. The backup camera flickered on, showing the road behind me. Straight, empty, normal. I eased my foot onto the gas. The engine revved. The car didn't move. I pressed harder. The revs climbed, the sound sharp in the enclosed space, but the image on the screen stayed fixed. The road behind me felt suddenly distant, unreal, like a photograph taped to the glass. A soft chime sounded from the dashboard. The backup camera went black. My mouth had gone dry. I shifted back into drive, my hands slick on the wheel. "Okay," I whispered. "Okay, fine." The silence pressed in again, thick and intimate. I had the overwhelming sense of being watched, not by eyes exactly but by attention, as if the forest, the road, the dark itself were waiting to see what I would do. I rolled forward a few feet, then stopped again, aligning my car with the center path. The smooth one, the clean one. My headlights stretched down it, revealing nothing but empty asphalt and that faint, wavering shimmer. As I hesitated, the radio clicked on by itself. Static filled the car, low and even. Beneath it, I thought I heard something like breathing, slow, synchronized, too steady to be interference. I reached for the knob and turned it off. The sound cut out instantly. The silence that followed felt deeper than before. I glanced left. The darker path seemed narrower now, the trees closer together. The shuffling sound came again, closer, accompanied by a faint, wet creak, like wood under strain. I glanced right. The open path felt impatient. I couldn't explain it, but something about it tugged at me. A subtle pull behind my eyes, as if it were the obvious choice and my hesitation was a childish delay. My thoughts started to feel slippery, hard to hold on to. I wondered, briefly and irrationally, if I had already chosen and simply didn't remember doing it. The idea made my stomach twist. "Just pick one," I muttered. "It's just a road." I chose the right path. The moment my tires crossed the invisible boundary, the air changed. The hum of the road deepened, dropping half an octave. The forest on either side seemed to recede, the trees blurring together into a continuous dark smear. I drove on, my headlights carving a familiar tunnel through the night. Relief washed over me, weak but real. I laughed under my breath, the sound shaky. See, I said to no one. Nothing. Then I noticed the mile marker. It stood on the shoulder to my right, reflective paint catching my lights. The number was the same as one I'd passed earlier that night, hours back, near the edge of the forest where the road had first started to feel too empty. I slowed, my chest tightening. I checked the odometer. The numbers hadn't changed much at all. The road ahead dipped gently, then rose. At the crest, it split. 3 identical paths laid out before me like a deliberate choice. My hands began to shake. No, I said. No, that's no. This time, the differences were clearer. The left path was the smooth one now, shimmering faintly, its lines too perfect. The middle path was the open one, wide and inviting. The right path was darker, the trees crowding close, that same shuffling sound threading through the silence. I laughed again, too loud, the sound verging on hysteria. I'm not doing this, I said. I'm not. I tried to turn around. The steering wheel resisted, not locked, not jammed, just heavy. Like turning it meant pushing against a thick current. The harder I fought it, the more it seemed to resist, until my arms ached and my breath came fast and shallow. I let go. The wheel eased back to center on its own. The car idled, patient. I squeezed my eyes shut, counting under my breath. When I opened them, the scene was unchanged. The roads waited. The forest watched. A thought surfaced, unbidden and unwelcome. What if the choice isn't which road you take? What if it's whether you keep choosing at all? The idea sent a chill through me. I realized then that every decision I'd made since the first split had felt guided, nudged, not forced, but encouraged. As if something had been learning how I thought, how I hesitated, which option I'd justify as reasonable. I looked at the middle path, felt neutral, safe, boring. I took it. The road carried me forward, smooth and steady. The shimmer in the air thickened, bending the headlights until the distance ahead seemed to fold in on itself. Sounds grew distorted. The engine's hum stretched thin, the tires' whisper lagging behind my movement like an echo that couldn't quite keep up. The forest thinned, giving way to open land. The sky brightened, not with stars or moonlight, but with a dull, even glow that had no source. It felt like driving into a photograph that hadn't finished loading. I relaxed despite myself. My shoulders dropped. My breathing slowed. Ahead, a familiar shape emerged. A sign, rectangular, reflective. My heart leapt. As I drew closer, I could see it wasn't a town sign or a highway marker. It was blank. No text, no symbols, just a clean, white face reflecting my headlights back at me. Beneath it, the road continued, straight and empty, vanishing into the glow. I passed the sign. The car slowed. I pressed the gas. Nothing happened. The speed bled away smoothly, gently, as if the road itself were absorbing my momentum. The engine idled, content. The glow ahead deepened, resolving into a wide, open space. The road didn't end so much as fade, the asphalt thinning until it blended seamlessly into the pale ground beyond. I rolled to a stop. For a long moment, I sat there, listening to my own breathing. The forest was gone. The night was gone. There was no horizon, no sky, no sense of direction at all. Just that soft, sourceless light and the road dissolving beneath my tires. A realization settled over me, heavy and cold. The splits hadn't been exits. They had been refinements. Each choice stripping away what I didn't need, guiding me toward the version of the road that fit me best. Toward the place where hesitation ended. The engine cut out. The silence that followed was complete, perfect. I reached for the door handle, my hand trembling. Before I touched it, the road behind me changed. In the rearview mirror, I saw it split into 3 identical paths, stretching back into the glow, waiting patiently for the next decision I would never finish making.